Goatee.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mind, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another cubed episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 412, recorded Monday, February 27th, 2023. Tonight we're talking about Alien 3, or Alien Cubed, from 1992. This one was chosen by your boy, Miles B. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy, Randy Z. What's up, man?
I'm an executive by day and a wild man by night.
How do, my friend? I'm excited to talk about this Alien 3 with you.
A wild
He's just
man?
Punch
Are you a wild
yeah.
man right now? Damn.
by
you're
night.
You're so wild. It's night on the East
I
Coast
know.
anyway. Let's get fucking buck wild right now.
We're going to do that. We're going to be talking about Alien 3, the wildest and most insane film imaginable.
Whew, it's so wild. So wild indeed. Last but not least, calling in from South Korea, we got your boy, Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy, losing my religion stains. No celibate stains here, boys.
No celibacy stain.
Nobody thought there was any danger of that.
Not once Ripley gets off the ship, boys. Oh, I'm ditching that religion, boys.
Oh, all right.
All right.
Out the door
Alright.
for me.
Weird
Brother
song to
Stains
celebrate
is
that.
gone. Brother Stains is gone.
Has left the building. Brother Stains. No.
Yes,
This is my
that's
brother
what a boy likes.
Stains. Some good new bumps, Randy. Way to go. You're on
Whoa.
top of it.
I'm on top of the world, baby. I'm a wild man.
Wild man by night. Before we get into the review, let's tackle just a little bit of housekeeping real quick. So this episode is going to drop on March 1st, which means our February poll will have closed by the time you're listening to this. Actually the March poll, sorry. But the March poll most certainly is going to be Scream 4 as the winner. So we're going to be talking about that pretty damn soon. But that of course means
Don't count your eggs before they hatch, Bob. Come on.
We've
I
got
mean,
like
I get-
3 weeks left.
There's a
I'm calling the
100
shots.
years left in this month.
I'm calling the shots. I feel comfortable. That of course means at the time of you listening to this, we have a brand new poll currently posted on our Patreon website. Our April poll is currently up there, and the theme for April is weed because it's 420 and stuff. Why not?
Really pulled out all the stops for the next poll, huh?
Getting buck wild. The three movies for
Like
you
nothing
to
I'd
vote
ever
between
smelled before
are
in my life.
That's true.
that's sticky icky, man. Whew. The three movies to vote between are Troll 2, This Is the End, and Scary Movie.
Whoa,
Hey.
Bob, you can't tell me how those numbers are looking yet because the poll is
Oh.
non-existent.
All zeros.
Let's take
Rob,
our
use your
Take a guess.
soothsaying clairvoyance and tell me what's gonna win since you're so good at that.
Yeah, why don't you take a shot, Bob? What do you think? How are you feeling about this poll?
My scarevoyance. I think This Is the End is going to steamroll it. I think
Yeah.
Troll 2 is probably going to be in second place and Scary Movie in last, if I had to guess. What do
Okay.
you guys think?
I don't know.
I think Scary Movie's gonna take it. I think like with our audience
Really?
is mostly people around our age. We have fondness for it, even for its
Yeah.
sins.
Yeah,
I
it would
feel
be
like
hard to
that's gonna be
count
a
Scary
shoo-in.
Movie out like all the way. I kind of would think that would be my popular choice too, but then this is
Hmm.
the end. I don't know. I would have put Troll 2 last, but I don't know. We'll see.
It's got a cult following for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see in about a week, I guess, what those numbers look like.
Yeah.
Speaking of other Patreon bullshit, we got a brand new mini cast dropping this Friday, March 3rd. Your boy Randeezy and myself are talking about that new found footage hotness, The Outwaters.
I have not seen that movie yet, but I did hear G Baby shitting all over it recently. So I was like,
I like it
He
when
glass bottomed
G-Baby-
that. He glass bottomed that movie.
Yeah.
When G Baby gets worked up, I enjoy watching fireworks.
So I
He's
don't
a
know
pretty
if I-
chill
out through your
dude.
asshole.
Yeah, I haven't been able. Dang.
Randy fucking went to work.
I know,
Dude,
damn,
cutting
all
up
new
these
bump
bumps.
board.
Whew. Damn. Made me shit my guts
I
out
do
through
what
my
I can.
asshole. So yeah, if you support us at the $10 level or above over on Patreon, you get access to a whole back catalog of Patreon exclusive content. We have over 90 on there now. We add to it every month. And also, if you do sign up on Patreon, we email you an RSS feed that you can copy and paste into your podcatcher of choice. So you don't have to listen to these just on Patreon. You can listen to them on iTunes or wherever you prefer. So it's super convenient, and there's a lot of content on there. Content. I hate that shit. There's a lot of audio. There's a lot of us jibber jabbing. You can
There's a
You
lot
hate
of
content?
the content. It's just like such a generic catch-all. It could mean literally anything.
Oh.
Content.
What
Okay.
we do is content. It's not art. So
Content. Oh, this Randy,
There's a lot of
those
priceless
bumps?
art on this
Those are art.
on our on our feed.
Let's
Yeah.
get into this piece of shit.
Oh fuck.
Damn.
Yeah, check.
It's like
see if
spring
Randy-
cleaning.
See if Randy and I think the Outwaters is a piece of shit or not this
Alright.
Friday. The last thing I have, Justin, I know you got some shit too. Let's Get Physical Media just dropped a brand new episode this past Tuesday. Mikey and myself are talking about our January pickups. So if you have any interest in collecting Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs, or anything like that, check out Let's Get Physical Media anywhere you get your podcasts. We got several YouTube things, I think. Juice, what you got?
Yeah, some new YouTube content. So I had mentioned last week, it finally just dropped right before this episode, but a full new game review is out. It's been a while since I did one. I think the last one I did was like Little Nightmares Deuce, I believe. But I just did a full new gaming review on Hollow Knight. And that is a game that is like I was really attracted to for like its kind of art style. It's very like dark and like eerie, but also like it's hand drawn, so it's like very beautiful. So I finally played through that. Been meaning to play through it for a long time and really enjoyed it. So I did like kind of a full breakdown on YouTube, and then also included like some gameplay and stuff. That's a game that's like really popular for like speed runs and stuff, just because there's like a bajillion things to like find in that game, and you can progress like any way you want. There's no like linear path, and so it can be confusing at times too. So I just kind of did how I kind of normally played through it, and just kind of like offer a little guidance for getting into the game. But yeah, so those are both on YouTube for your viewing pleasures. Randy, have you played through Hollow Knight?
What is none of your business?
Yes.
Yes.
I played briefly, but I'm not big on the Metroidvania thing, which is very much where the category that falls into side-scrolling Metroidvania in particular. For some reason, just does not or hasn't computed for me very well. I think
They're
that if I gave it
tricky.
another shot, I could force my way in, but I haven't. You know, it's a bitter pill at first for me.
Yeah, the biggest thing with those games is getting into them, and that's kind of why I wanted to do that gameplay video, because when I first started Hollow Knight, like I really wanted to play it, but Metroidvania games, because they're not linear, you have to like kind of know where to go to get a couple upgrades in order to progress, because there's no just like straight path, and people can get easily frustrated. And so like the first hour to hour and a half can like really be critical in like how much you can enjoy the game. So but
Definitely.
they're tricky. So yeah, okay.
Tricky.
Totally.
Cool. Is that all we got? Randy, you got anything?
Not a goddamn thing. Not a thing.
Don't touch me.
Damn.
Bob, you're on fire this week.
I know. Wow.
I love that it's the sound quality is identical, so it's hard to tell
yeah,
when those are bumps or just Bob making statements of fact.
just popping
such
off.
I have a daddy kink.
Ah, yes, Bob. That's well documented at this point.
Yes.
Yes,
I just
Rob, you
need
say
to
that all the
remind you
time.
all, literally all the time. Think our house is clean.
All right, good deal.
His house is clean.
Let's get into the main event. We're talking about Alien Cubed, and let's kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Alien 3 from 1992, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour, 54 minutes, or like 2.5 hours if you watch the assembly cut. This was directed by David Fincher, written by Ronald Shusett, Vincent Ward, and like literally 8 other people. There's a lot of writers on this. It
I
stars
think
Sigourney
I have a credit
Weaver.
on there.
You probably fucking do. 1992.
Stains.
You were
Just
just
stains.
a semen in your dad's ball sack. Charles S. Dutton's in this. Charles Dance is in this. Paul McGann, Brian Glover, Danny Webb, some other folks. Lance Henriksen for a few minutes, anyways. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. After her last encounter, Ellen Ripley crash lands on Fiorina 161, a maximum security prison. When a series of strange and deadly events occur shortly after her arrival, Ripley realizes that she's brought along an unwelcome visitor. Gentlemen, had you seen this movie? Had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Juice, why don't you kick us off?
I had never seen this before, so this was a first time watch for me. I watched the theatrical cut, which is what's on Disney Plus. I don't know. So like if I made a full list of like the Alien franchise films, this would probably be somewhere in the middle. At least I still haven't seen them all, but most of them. I think I'm missing one maybe. And so it would probably be like somewhere in the middle. So it's one of those movies where like it's kind of hard to recommend because there's several better choices within the franchise, but also I don't think it's so bad that I would tell somebody like, oh, you really shouldn't check that out. It's really just kind of like middling for me. So like not a strong recommend, but not a strong sway either. Bob, had you ever seen this before? Have you ever seen the assembly cut, Bob? And would you recommend
Yes.
people check this?
I'd only seen this once prior, and it was the assembly cut a few years ago. And this time around, I watched the theatrical cut because I'd never seen it before. And I don't know that I would really recommend this. Similar to you though, I wouldn't shout from the rooftops like fucking stay away or anything. But like, I don't think I could recommend it necessarily. I think there's at least 3 other Alien movies I would recommend over this, maybe 4. But it's fine. It's a fine movie. Randeezy, what about you?
Yeah, so I have a similar viewing experience as Juice in that this was my first time seeing this film. I have also not seen all of the Alien franchise films, but I've seen all but Alien vs. Predator Requiem, Resurrection, and the first Prometheus. I don't remember which one was the first in that reboot line, that prequel line.
It was
it
Prometheus, yeah.
So what was the second one that we reviewed?
The second one was Covenant.
Covenant.
Alien
Okay.
Covenant.
Yeah.
Alien Covenant, that's right. So like, yeah, I have a few gaps there, but I honestly like the reputation of this movie that, as I understood it, was dog shit. And I was very pleasantly surprised that is not really what I received. I felt like it was a lot better than what I assumed, what I had understood to be its reputation. And I'd be curious to find out more about if that's an accurate representation of what it is. But I would lightly recommend this movie. Yeah, to me, it's I agree that it's somewhat middling, but it's, for me, in the top 3 probably. Out of, yeah, I don't know, like none of the other ones, like I don't know. Really, it kind of goes in sequence of 2, 1, 3 for me in terms of quality, from what I'm saying. But we'll get more into the nitty gritty of that
You
shortly.
put Aliens.
So, yeah,
above
light recommend.
Alien?
I think I might. Yeah, I oscillate a little bit. Okay, well
Whoa.
your stank face does nothing but solidify my feeling towards this.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds like a middling ass recommendation from Straight Chilling Crew. We're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, do you have a plot synopsis?
I do indeed have a
Please
plot
hit me with
synopsis.
it. Please.
All right, here it goes. Shortly following the events of Aliens, an egg hatches on board ship Sulaco. Then a fire starts, causing the ship to eject an escape pod with Ripley, Hicks, Newt, and the android Bishop on board. The pod crashes on Fiorina 161, a foundry and maximum security prison staffed by 25 male inmates. They pull Ripley from the pod, but everyone else dies in the crash. An inmate's dog then gets face hugged by an alien. Ripley is awakened by Clemens, the doctor. She asks to have an autopsy done on Newt. They find nothing, and then she asks for the bodies to be burned as she fears Newt is carrying an alien embryo, or one of the other bodies are. Spiritual leader Dylan delivers a speech as they burn the bodies. Ripley finds a damaged Bishop and reactivates him. He confirms the facehugger came to Fiorina with them. Ripley then almost gets raped by the inmates, but Dylan interferes. The now fully grown xenomorph kills several more inmates. Ripley tells the warden Andrews they need weapons, but they have none at prison. The xenomorph kills Clemens, but strangely lets Ripley live. She runs into the cafeteria to warn the others as Andrew is pulled into the ceiling and killed. Ripley then rallies the troops, and they plan to flush the xenomorph out with fire, but it derails their plans and causes an explosion, killing more inmates. Ripley then scans herself and sees a queen embryo growing inside of her. She also finds out the Weyland-Yutani group wants to use the aliens as biological weapons. Ripley asks Dylan to kill her, and he agrees only if she helps him kill the xenomorph first. They lure the alien into the foundry, resulting in the death of every other inmate, excluding Dylan and Morse. Dylan sacrifices himself to get the xenomorph into the mold, while Morse dumps molten lead onto them. The xenomorph jumps out covered in lead, while Ripley activates the sprinklers, causing the alien to explode from thermal shock. The Weyland-Yutani team arrives with Marines and a guy who looks just like Bishop, who claims he created the android. They ask her to allow them to remove the queen from her stomach. She refuses and throws herself off the walkway into the foundry, holding on to the queen embryo as it bursts from her chest. As the movie ends, Ripley's final log recording from the Nostromo plays. Roll them credits.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
Ripley. Or is it? Who knows?
Bob,
No,
you
but
seem
yes.
pretty
but no.
negative on this movie. I didn't find it so boring like you seem to. What's up with that?
Yeah,
What's up with that?
There's not a
What's
whole
going on?
lot that I find intriguing about this movie. And I'm going to try and not just like endlessly compare it to Alien and Aliens, because I think it's very unfair to any movie, really. So like just taking this as a standalone movie, like it starts off with a bunch of like characters that you may or may not be familiar with that are dead. The little girl seems to have like some significance, but you don't, if you haven't seen Aliens, you don't really know. The other characters are like moderately interesting. The Dr. Clemens is like somewhat interesting. Dylan is probably the most interesting character, I think. I kind of wish we got more into him and like the religion of the inmates and stuff like that. But really, it's mostly the vast majority of this movie is like cat and mouse stuff happening with an alien that largely looks way worse than the previous two movies. And then everybody just kind of dies at the end, and I'm not sure like what the point of it all is. It seems like they're really trying to get at something, but I think the storied creation of this movie and the numbers of writers that were involved really like you can feel that the point is lost in the shuffle. I think
Yeah.
there's some cool ideas, but I don't think any of it really lands for me. So
I'd-
I found it
yeah.
kind of hollow by the end
I
of it.
definitely do think that there's a good foundation here. And honestly, so the best part for me was actually the first hour of setting everything up. I actually thought it was set up pretty well. So the element is like this prison community. Because through this franchise experience, you know, we've kind of had this experience of like in the first movie, it's kind of like everyday kind of workers. They're in space, but in this world, you know, they're like arguing about their contracts and stuff like that. And then the second one, it's based on this kind of community and then like mercenaries and stuff like that. And so it's interesting to kind of like take it to this like prison that's like isolated on this planet. Like that's an interesting idea. The religion is an interesting aspect. And so I actually enjoyed the first hour of this pretty good, but I tend to agree where the second hour, it becomes a lot of running through this kind of like maze that looks all the same. That's kind of like one of my biggest beefs is they set this idea up of this prison place, but it's all fucking brown. And like, it does they
it's a
do
brown
not
movie.
yeah, they do not do enough to distinguish like the different like locations in this prison, or just not make it so fucking brown all the time. So I was bothered by that kind of like second hour a little bit for sure. Yeah.
I mean, that stuff didn't bother me so much. I agree that like it kind of like at a certain point it starts following the rubric of Home Alone of all things, where like they do like the whole like I don't know, third act starts and they start doing like a plan, and then that plan falls apart. They do other plans. Like it's like plan after plan after a while. And that's where it kind of like I think that's where you lose the thread on all the good like pipe work that you lay down early in the movie, like Justin's point.
Whoa, that's some good pipe work.
That's you gotta put some good pipe work in. I always
lay
say
it
that.
down. Gotta do it
in this house.
So I think I don't know. Like to me, it kind of devolves a little bit, but for the most part, it's I don't know. Maybe my expectations being so low and rock bottom from just like loose tangential things I've heard about this movie, maybe it helped my experience a lot, because I don't know that maybe if I was expecting this to be as good as Alien or Aliens, it's definitely going to disappoint that metric, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't quite do action as well. It doesn't quite do horror as well. And but like some of the production is still pretty good. Like I didn't really notice, it didn't bother me that like I didn't notice so much that everything looked so similar or whatever. Like the parts that looked similar were supposed to, like the endless corridors, like that's part of the story that's written in. So it doesn't bother me with those sort of things. And I also like there's like a trash heap where she goes and finds Bishop, and there's a few different like locations that I thought were kind of cool looking. Like I didn't have a real big problem with it, but I can understand that critique, I guess.
Something this movie did that I thought was pretty neat, even though like the xenomorph largely looks kind of bad, is that I don't believe we've ever seen a chest burster pop out of anything that wasn't human. So to see it come from a dog and look a little different and move a little differently was a neat idea. And I kind of wish we had seen it happen with maybe more than just the one dog and have more than just the one xenomorph. But I like that concept.
That was really interesting. I mean, that's what sets them up for like a later predator alien hybrid, like all the hybrids that they start building out, which like gets into the like absurd toy manufacturer area real quick. But like the idea that they would merge with a dog and then be like quadrupedal instead of bipedal, and then like things like that are like that's interesting enough. Or that to me implies that it takes on some of the characteristics, not like maybe even personalities of the people that it bursts from. We don't really get to know that because they're so animalistic, but maybe like, if they wanted to write something where it breeds with something more substantial, like something like a genius person or something, maybe it takes on some of that intelligence or something. And all of us, like, it'd be real easy to go Gremlins 2 with it. But if you do just a little bit of dabbling in that, then I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like it's one of the things, it's kind of like the same thing with the disappointment of this movie. But also I do want to praise the positive aspect too, because I feel like a lot of this movie, for me, the first hour is a lot of like, oh, that's interesting. Wow, I'm surprised. Wow, I thought this was gonna be shit. That's cool. And then the second half for me is a lot of like, oh, they didn't really pay that off, or like, man, wish they would
Yeah.
have followed that through. So like in this idea, yeah, I agree that because in the first one we really don't know what's going on, and you still don't get a big look. So I have a easier time connecting this movie to the first Alien for some reason, because you're
it's the
dealing with a
same.
single xenomorph.
Yeah.
And it follows more the idea of like the kind of like space environment. I feel like it's more on track with kind of like what the first Alien was. Yeah, maybe it's kind of like trying to go back to that formula a little bit, but I wish that this Alien looks like doo-doo though. It
It's
looks
rough,
so
man.
bad.
Yeah.
Well, because they CG'd the shit out
They
of it.
CG'd
at
the
least
shit
in
out of it.
In a
So-
lot of scenes anyway, and not all of
Apparent-
it, I don't think.
Yeah.
Apparently, the only fully CG scene is the moment where the alien head explodes. Everything else was done physically, but the way they puppeteered it was different. So it looked kind of janky in its like movement. So they tried to smooth it
Clean
over,
it out.
and it looks like shit.
Okay,
Well,
so that's
but it
the
was a
gloss
real
that we're
thing.
getting with
Yeah.
it.
Well, they
Yeah.
didn't do the things that like they were doing in the first movie. It does seem like they're trying to go back to that tone, but this would have been the perfect space to kind of use the liminal space of like the corridors and stuff to kind of hide
Liminal.
this monster. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but they don't. It like bursts out of the dog. It's like it's like crawling around on the ceiling. It looks so bad, unfortunately.
I think
Yeah.
that like when it's in the dog form and it's just like kind of standing there and it's like you getting your first shot of it, that's the best it looks in the whole movie. I don't think it ever looks that good again.
Probably. But
I
it really
agree with that,
yeah.
really sucks, because I thought when they brought what's his name back, the cyborg, that
Bishop.
looked really good. Like it's
Yeah,
fucked
I
up.
agree.
But
It was
where he's a
shockingly good.
yeah, I was
I thought
really
they were going to do a
surprised
cut
too.
to like a like to Lance Henriksen in like a crazy makeup, but they
Mm.
never did, and it sold
Mhm.
off pretty well anyway, which is
I
pretty.
thought it
goddamn
looked
impressive.
really good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was
And
at the
so I
time of
was like,
that-
man, I wish the Alien looked this good.
at the time they released the movie, that was like one of the most expensive animatronics ever created or something like
Oh.
that. But I mean, it looks fucking dope. So
It looks really good.
even though it was on screen for like a couple minutes, but they
But
pulled
it's
it
kind
off
of like
pretty well.
not the effect, but like the moment with Bishop is so spoiled by the later revelation that his creator or whatever. I don't know, man. Like having Lance Henriksen
Oh yeah.
come back as a cameo role or whatever is one thing,
Yeah,
but having him come back
Yeah.
as like a canonical, I don't know, man. It just didn't.
That's what
hit
I'm
right.
saying.
Just to be the stand-in for the Wayland like greed
Corp,
engine
yeah.
that we're already
Yeah.
so familiar with, like. I'm okay. Like they're recreating the Wayland as the villain thing, which is fine and good, and it makes sense within the confines of the story or within the confines of this franchise. But we've seen that before, and the only really truly new big element they have here is the monastic situation with these like reformed prisoners, supposedly reformed prisoners. And they do with that is pose some like they replace sort of like does somebody have like sort of like the thing like suspicion of your fellow man sort of thing with just
Mhm.
like her being terrified of everybody rightfully
Well-
on the ship, and like the distrust that's there is only because of their history and them saying outright that like having a woman here puts us into a terrible position and all this stuff. Like, but they never, like you guys said, like that's the thing they
Yeah.
never pay off. So
That's
Yeah,
the thing
they
when they
say-
oh, go ahead.
they say like having a woman ruins their harmony because they haven't seen a woman in years, and it's like,
right.
okay, that's interesting. So let's see like where that thought ends by the time the movie rolls,
Right.
the credits start rolling. But like it doesn't really end anywhere. It's just like these guys are
No.
kind of assholes, and she like saves the world again, and that's about it. Like
It's enough to give whatever fucking Tywin a little bit of an arc right before he gets like pretty shockingly killed off. I thought that he was going to go the distance like Kyle Reese
Yeah.
did in part 2, but they kill. So like, but like really, it doesn't pay off much more beyond that. And what's the other guy's name? Charles Dutton. Sort of like the leader of the
Dylan.
the Dylan. Well, no, like Dylan's the leader of the
Church.
prison monks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, he like it gives him just a little bit of pathos, but they don't do much with it besides like he rescues. I don't know why he rescues Ripley in the end. Like sacrifice. If somebody's got to be sacrificed, she's ready to die for a moral and just reason. Like let her be the one. And they just don't do that because they need that last minute of bursting out of the lead, and then I guess.
So what I was thinking that
the Christ pose, the T pose,
that they should have done was, she comes off and she's introduced to this church on this prison. And what I was thinking was, we've already seen the corporate interest in this alien. Right? Like we know, like for the past 2 movies, we have seen they want to weaponize it. You can't trust the company. Don't believe them. So I was like, I've seen that story played out. I've seen that twice now. We don't need that. And we're separated from the company. You've crash landed on this place. Where I kind of want to see the progression is you can do it a couple ways, actually, that makes the franchise kind of move along and makes it distinct, but also progressive in that you can have the alien evolve from the dog. It makes it a new kind of alien. It introduces the idea of like, oh yeah, they do have some kind of like relation with their host, and it affects how that they grow and what they become. So that's cool. And then also what I thought we were going to get is these men kind of like finding like kind of worship towards the alien. Like I thought you were going to get a fanatic side that was like, this is the god we've been promised, or like, again, this is the perfect kind of being, and we're going to kind of like help it along. We're going to self-sacrifice ourselves to let it grow inside of us so that it becomes something new. And then like the science people, you know, kind of over here saying like, no, you know, we've got to stop it. We got to destroy it. I feel like that's a much more interesting idea, and like how society deals with this alien. We've already seen people want to make money off of it, but like what happens when it gets into a more like religious standpoint, like people start to worship it or, you know, help it along in that way? It's like that's a lot more interesting than just
I think
the company wants it again.
They kind of did that in Alien vs Predator, like a little bit anyway. We don't see much of it, but
I totally agree. And like that's I definitely thought that there would probably be a fanatical side, but more than I thought that there would be factioning amongst these men, and there was a little bit of that, but it really is about their resolve towards, you know, their singular cause. And that to me is like, that's missing a trick, to your point. Like I also feel like that, like we've seen Wayland, we've seen corporate greed as a theme. I'm okay with them bringing that back because that is kind of, it's never not been a theme in alien movies up to this point, but can be a slow simmer in the background, and they kind of do that. They have it be sort of like, it creates a ticking clock, but it's still ultimately all the decisions are made around the greed of the corporation, not around their religious beliefs necessarily, which is just missing the point to me. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I agree.
The devil is a motherfucking liar, so you know I ain't worried. Biatch.
Damn, yeah, he is. One of the differences between the assembly cut and the theatrical cut. So there is no director's cut of this movie. Fincher really did not have final cut of the theatrical version, and he had literally nothing to do with the assembly cut whatsoever. They asked him if he wanted to help, and he said, "Fuck no." He said he said basically the only way we could have a true director's cut is if he just shot a whole brand new fucking movie. So he didn't want to touch it. So that's why we're calling it
that would be interesting.
Yeah, the longer cut is the assembly cut. One of the differences is that the alien doesn't burst out of a dog; it bursts out of an ox.
Okay.
Which an ox.
The fuck is an ox doing there?
They have an ox. I don't know. I guess that's probably why they changed it, because like what the fuck? It makes sense for them to have a dog, you know, companionship or whatever. But an ox, I don't know.
Kind of, but yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
if they had some kind of, I mean, if they have to grow livestock or something, it would make more. They could easily make that
Yeah.
make some sense for me. Like it wouldn't
Yeah.
be that hard for them to be like, we live on an isolated island, we farm or whatever. Like that's fine. I don't.
Yeah, we need animals
Yeah.
more than just
That's
a
fine.
dog.
Well,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
they can get a
Yeah.
dog, they can get any animal. So,
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
I
It doesn't.
imagine
That's what I was
anything.
saying. It doesn't necessarily make
The
much
realism
more
of that
sense if
doesn't-
they've got a dog.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, it's a smaller change. Yeah, they sort of cleaned up the crash landing a little bit too. They pulled Ripley out of a nearby body of water, and she was covered in lice, and that's why they shaved her head or whatever. And the ox was
Mhm.
also covered in lice. There's more gore too. So like the death scene where I forget the dude's name, but he gets like chopped up by the giant spinning fan blade.
Oh, yeah.
They added a lot more gore in there. And then the end, I think it's probably one of the bigger changes. So there is no like queen bursting from her chest at the end. She just holds that Christ-like pose as she's falling into the lead, and it just holds on her as she like slowly gets smaller and vanishes. And that's pretty much the end of it. Overall, the story's pretty much the same. It's just it flows a little better. There's a little more like connective scenes that fill some stuff in, but the story's pretty much identically the same, no matter what
You think
kind you watch.
You said you've seen both, so do you have a preference?
I haven't seen the assembly cut in a couple years, but it does seem that like everybody, like unanimously, everybody agrees that the assembly cut is the better of the two versions. But it's pretty much the same story.
longer,
Though.
yeah,
It's just
okay.
it's like an extra 30 minutes to help like smooth the rough edges of the theatrical cut.
So this is something
I
I meant to do more of. So this is bad on me, but I am curious for the discussion. Do we know like kind of what Fincher's like wanted to do with this before it got cut to shit? Like, is there an original kind of like plan or something that he's mentioned, or like some original script or something that we have that like sheds light on like where this kind of deviated from Fincher's ideas? Do we know?
Dude, there's so much trivia on this movie. It's insane. I've got a
Yeah.
lot.
Let's talk
So
about
I
some
can-
of that in the main discussion.
I read a whole thing about
Yeah.
it, Bob, and I'm wondering like if it's.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how much of it is a game of telephone. So you tell us what you know, and we'll cross reference.
But yeah, and this is kind of like a high level because I don't want to get too in the weeds with everything. I've got a lot of information though. So they basically had 10 writers working on this script before they ever started filming. And they spent $7 million on sets that they ended up never using because the script kept evolving. So it got to a point where they just couldn't fucking use the sets that they'd already built. So it was just like flushing money down the toilet. This was Fincher's directorial debut. Before this, he did a lot of shorts and a shitload of music videos, like a ton of music videos. So he did not really have the clout that he has now. Fucking David Fincher's name rings out now. But
I mean, he had a pretty storied career even then, but it was not as a director. Not as a feature director.
Yeah. But some of the different like scripts that it went through, and I think the end version takes notes from basically all of them. So there was a script that was written by a dude named Gibson, and he sort of jokingly summarizes his version of the script as space commies hijack alien eggs. Big problem in mall world.
In a mall.
So there was some sort.
Yeah.
There was some sort of Cold War like commentary happening that led to like a giant battle in a space mall at the end.
I am
so it's supposed
so
to be-
fucking glad that never got made. I read that and I was like, that sounds terrible. And what's interesting is it also says, I think it's the Wikipedia is what I read. I'm pretty sure, and it was like, apparently a lot of fans like think that's the one that should be made, which blows my fucking mind. Because like, first of all, even at the time they're writing the script, the Cold War like that was so tired. It was just like the default villain of the 80s, and they were going to go into it in the late 80s into this third rung of this movie with that, and they're going to do it at a fucking space mall. Like they're just going to do
Yeah,
Just
nothing
fill it.
about this world
Sherman
has
Oaks
ever
Mall,
suggested that
again.
there would be something like a space mall
A
out
space
there.
mall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything about
It's
this is
I
very-
assumed that
it's gritty and really like
It
derelict.
doesn't. They don't spend a lot of
and-
time talking about. Well, yeah, you imagine this is like sort of like a Blade Runner world where if there is
Yeah.
a mall, it looks like shit, and it's like it's
No one
like
wants to
fucking
fucking be there.
Demolition Man underground situation.
Yeah.
It shouldn't,
No,
but
I-
like the way they describe that makes it sound like an '80s mall, which is
That
not-
sounds terrible.
not
That is
appealing
what
to
it
me at
sounds
all.
like.
That sounds
I've
terrible.
got like 4 more script iterations. I'll blast through real quick.
Sure, yeah.
There's another dude named Eric Red, and his script opened up with a team of special forces boarding the Sulaco, finding that all survivors had fallen victim to the aliens. Afterwards, it moved into a small town U.S. city in a type of biodome, culminating in an all-out battle with the townsfolk facing hordes of alien warriors. And I watched an interview with this dude, and he was almost referencing like a Signs type thing where you got like aliens out in the cornfields and they're like, picking humans off, which sounds kind of cool. I mean, that might be
That
interesting to see.
scene sounds kind of cool, not the concept.
Yeah.
I don't love the idea of terrestrial alien like
Sure,
xenomorphs.
yeah.
Like I
Me-
just don't
me
love
neither.
like slice of life like I don't know. They would have to really like do something different than what you expect to see in a small town situation.
Well, because what makes
To make
this
it seem like-
franchise interesting is it's all in space, and you get a glimpse of kind of like the world's probably really shitty back home, So I don't
Yeah.
want to see corn. I'm imagining that people have to go to space to fucking mine rocks because there are no cornfields. Like, you know what I'm
Well,
saying?
this wasn't on Earth, right? Like what I read, I think it said it was a
Yeah,
biodome on Mars or something.
Right, some other planet.
Oh,
So
I
it is still
gotcha.
space, technically,
Okay,
but it's
I gotcha.
but like
I
the idea that
gotcha.
you would have like a full domestic scene with xenomorphs, that hits me the same way Jurassic World hit me, where
Yeah,
it's like,
sure.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. There's another iteration written by David Twohy. He changed the setting to a prison planet, which is kind of close to what we got, which was being used for illegal experiments on the aliens for Biological Warfare Division. They then called up a dude named Weaver and gave him a $4 million salary for some reason, plus a share of the box. Sigourney Weaver. My shorthand is fucking me up. Sorry. They called up Sigourney Weaver to get her on board with this version of the script. She was not on board until now. They were going to make her
Okay.
basically a footnote, and then they called her up and gave her $4 million to be in the movie, plus a share of the box office. And also, Sigourney Weaver specifically requested there be no weapons in the movie, so that's why
Yeah.
they don't have any weapons at the prison.
That's pretty
I thought that was
cool.
an interesting when I found that out, I was like, oh, I thought there was a narrative reason for it because it's an interesting like
It
bent
is
to take your movie, especially right after Aliens 2, which was all about the armaments and like very
Yeah,
into
yeah.
that. So like to take it the opposite direction creates a whole new like I don't know, it makes a whole new
yeah.
dynamic and challenge. Yeah.
Now, see, that aspect is interesting, as if she had like just crash landed on the planet. And she's like, well, at least I'm not with the alien. Like, it could have been one of those situations where you're with the prisoners. Oh, shit. Well, at least I'm not with the aliens. But then you find out, and that could play into the mutation idea of like, how does this thing mutate? Of where like they've just been sacrificing up prisoners to find out like how this thing mutates. And like, but then I guess that would kind of undermine the whole idea that the company has dedicated so much time and effort to capturing this alien. They have a whole planet where they're just experimenting with it. It's like,
Yeah.
unless it's another
I mean, who
future
knows?
thing, like she was, in cryo sleep for such a long time, they actually got a hold of it, and we see the results, and this is the results, like mass
be.
experimentation and like
Yeah.
abuse and stuff. That could have been cool.
It could be
They
cool.
can even
Yeah.
justify it by saying like from the corpses we've developed this new technologies that we're testing. Like it doesn't necessarily have, but they're still after the live thing, the real thing.
Yeah,
Like you can justify it 100 ways and still have it function that way.
yeah.
But I don't know.
There's
I like
potential
like
there.
the. I don't know. Again, like we have this movie that seems like it's largely focusing on a religious aspect, and it ends with a Christ pose and a self-sacrifice, but the connection isn't there. So like I
next-
really want to fix that before,
Oh,
rather
Rob's
than
got
go
one
any
more.
other direction.
Well, no, I got two more actually. So the next
Okay.
version of the script kind of gets into to what Randy's getting into here. Vincent Ward came in, did another pass, and his idea was there's a planet whose interior is wooden and archaic in design, where Luddite-like monks would take refuge. The story begins with a monk who sees a star in the east, which is Ripley's escape pod, and at first believes this to be a good omen. Upon arrival, of course, Ripley, with increasing suggestions of the alien presence, the monk inhabitants believe it to be some sort of religious trial for their misdemeanors,
There you go.
punishable by the creature that haunts them. So like that fucking makes sense.
That's the
right?
one. That's the one
Yeah.
that like makes like where I was saying if you're gonna have this whole like it's kind of weird to have this prison system and be like, oh, they're all religious and they chose this to air. It's like,
It's kinda
okay,
two things at once. Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
If you're gonna be on a prison planet, I kind of want a prison planet. If you're going to be introducing religion, I kind of want like this aspect, the monks, and they see it as like, oh, a trial or some kind of savior or something we should be,
Yeah.
worshiping or helping along. Like that's more interesting, honestly, to me. The prison's okay too, but yeah, mashing them together but not paying off either is like seems like a disservice to both ideas.
I think so, too.
There's sketches of this like wooden planet, like the interior of what it would look like online. You can find, and it looks wild. And I can't imagine what it would fucking cost to build this thing. But it looks neat. It might have been dumb, but like that's probably the one I would want to see the most. The
I
final version
Yeah.
is what we kind of ended up with. So Sigourney Weaver requested that producers Walter Hill and David Geiler write the final script because she believed that only they and also Ridley Scott can write Ripley effectively, the character of Ripley effectively. So they worked with a script doctor to pull basically all the previous scripts together, and we got what we got here. And a lot of these rewrites were happening like while Fincher was like trying to make his fucking movie, and they kept like changing stuff,
Yeah.
which is
Oh, I didn't know
incredibly
that.
frustrating and difficult. I'm sure.
Yeah,
So-
dude. Yeah. Oh my god. Getting new marching orders as you're fucking making anything
Yeah,
it
that's
makes you
gonna
want
be
to fucking die,
frustrating.
dude.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yeah, you're on a time limit and you're on a budget and you're trying to
Well,
like
yeah,
make
just to
a
have
first feature
no
and-
cohesive like connections and
Sure,
stuff.
yeah.
That's terrible.
And
Yeah,
the, first-
that like wooden world and stuff. You know what it kind of reminds me? It kind of reminds me of like Return of the Jedi or something like that, where like you got to take it to a new place, you got to give it a new environment, and
Fincher worked on that.
yeah. It just I don't know. That makes more sense to me, especially like aesthetically. Like this one feels consistent in a way. Like I was saying, okay, we've seen like the everyday workers, we've seen the kind of military aspect, even the aspect of like terraforming. And so in the way like 3 feels consistent with the world, like, oh, we're in a prison. I don't think they do enough to make it look like special or anything, but it does feel consistent. But what's like more interesting to me is like show me something kind of new but that still feels like it fits in place, and like that like religious aspect, that sounds the most interesting to me.
Like, yeah, then they need a narrative pull that's going
Yeah.
to be like I honestly just think that it is what you described, which is just too many things happening at once. I honestly like I respect the decision on some level of being like, I think that having just a prison planet or whatever could be pretty dull because you know what to expect. We basically got that anyway.
Yeah,
It's just got one guy who's like, if they had just had one sect of reformers and another that are kept in line that keep these like other assholes in line, and then you have the same story.
sure.
And I think that like trying to infuse the religious aspect into it was a noble effort. It doesn't pay off because it confuses the message a little bit, but more than that, they just don't follow through. Period.
Yeah,
Like they just
don't.
spend more time on the cat and mouse than they do on that, which in fairness, I mean, I see how this movie ended up the way it was,
Sure.
with the way it ended up, and it's
And
it's a
it could've been
tragedy
so
to some
much
level, but
worse.
Yeah.
It
They
could have
dodged a
been.
lot of
Really could
bullets
have
and
been.
still got hit by quite a few.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will say to like give it positives. I mean, I really like the first hour. I thought that like they were setting it up really well. Like I said, the aspect of it bursting out of a dog was interesting. I thought that old Tywin Lannister was like doing a good job. I was liking the kind of dynamic there where he was like, I kind of was a prisoner, but I am also a doctor, and so I have like this checkered past, but I'm like kind of a man of science.
He's like the most noble murderer of all time.
Yeah, and so he's kind of like, and like they're kind of hook up and stuff like that. That's fine with me. I don't know. And even like the kind of warden aspect, it's like, and like the hint of a religious thing, like the whole first hour with the acting was good. The bishop scene was good. The idea of it coming out of a dog was intriguing. And so I was on board, and really like that last hour is like, the corporation comes back in the same capacity they always had. That's bad. There's like, they don't make these characters particularly distinct, and so she's like calling out people's names. I'm like,
especially
I don't
visually.
know who that dude is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the
There's
guy
the
who
one-
lives to the end, I'm like, who the fuck is that?
There's the one like really dumb guy they call 85, I think, because that's
Yeah.
his IQ.
Yeah.
And then there's
He wears a
Dylan,
ball
and
cap,
then-
so you can tell him apart.
and then the doctor, and then anyone else is who the fuck knows.
No,
honestly.
yeah.
I
And
do
then the
think-
corridors all look the same, and they say it's like a
They do.
maze, but it's like they spend 45 minutes running through like the same looking hallway. It's like, damn.
With a
I still don't
doo-doo-looking
understand their
alien.
plan. Like I still understand several of their plans, because it would require me to understand the full layout of the fucking building, and I just don't, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to.
Show
but
us
I
a
did
map
like
real quick. You know?
I thought it was a weird choice, although I like part of me wanted to like fanboy out because they kind of do like a point of view Sam Raimi thing
Oh yeah.
in those scenes, but like
Yeah.
it seems ill-fitting for this movie
Dude,
and this franchise
It
to me.
bothered me a lot. Like maybe do it once and like lead into a really cool kill,
Yeah.
but don't do it again. They do
I like that it
4 or
flipped
5
around like
times.
upside down and stuff. Do
That's
that one. Yeah, I agree.
fine.
Like I think you could do
Too
that once,
much.
maybe even twice, but yeah, they do it a lot. And it's like,
Also, too, it's hard because we
like
don't
heavy.
know what the perception of an alien is. Like it's got this weird dome head, and so to just have it
Oh,
be a view that's like kind of
Slightly
blurry on
warped,
the end.
yeah.
It's like that's
Alright.
kind of dumb.
I didn't
Like
think
the
about that. I mean,
predator,
I
the
don't. That doesn't
predator
bother
point
me.
of view is fucking cool, because otherwise you have no idea
Sure,
what it can
Well, I mean,
see. And
Yeah.
that's
But even like
neat,
the
I
demons
think.
in Evil Dead are like they kind of
Oh, yeah,
see
that's
normal too.
badass.
They're just a camera on a board. So
That's just,
Well-
But, like,
that's just
I understand
That's-
also though that the reason that works is because the tone of those movies is very different than
Yeah. Yeah.
totally. I don't know. The Wind. Your point of view from The Wind. That's fucking cool.
Whoa, this isn't the happening here, Bob.
I do think that like Ripley, it is handled pretty well in this movie. Like her character is still like very strong, very fucking badass.
Sure, yeah.
She's willing to like shoulder like humanity once again and sacrifice literally everything to like save the world, like she always has been willing to do. So like that character is written consistently, even if like the supporting cast can't begin to touch that of Alien or Aliens. So I mean, at least that's there. I
I
think.
agree.
I think
also
I
like-
wish there were guns though. Like
I think
you
they
know,
did her
I-
justice,
doesn't bother me.
honestly. I still,
Yeah.
like you said, I like her character, and I even like the aspect, of the people being of close to her dying. I kind of wish maybe there's a little bit more even of, like Newt dying. She's
Yeah.
already lost a daughter before. She has now lost Newt. And that can hit like really home and like make her maybe a little like more cold or hard, but like I liked her like, and maybe that's why I liked Tywin being in this movie, because it builds Ripley up. They have conversations and and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and so I felt like that they did do Ripley like justice, and I'm
I agree.
happy for that, because it's terrible to lose like a good hero to shitty writing. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to flash grief your tits. You know what I mean?
Sometimes- My lord, there you go.
No,
You
I
gotta
don't
do
know,
it,
man.
but-
I think I think I agree. Like like she, like all faults and all, the story arc that she gets is consistent with her previous point of view. I really, even though I didn't love like Lance Henriksen playing a bigger role like than
Mhm.
Bishop, another role than Bishop, like him saying, like, trying to con her, and her just being like, come on, don't you want to help, or whatever he says, and she says no. And she fucking closes the gate. I loved that, and I was like, fuck yeah, that's Ripley. That's good shit. And that all worked, so benefit there. But
the scene with
just
her
this-
talking to where she like first really meets Dylan, and he's like, you don't want to talk to me, I'm a rapist and a murderer and a piece of shit or whatever. And she's like, oh, so I must make you real nervous, and sits down right in front of his ass. That's fucking
Put anything in my ass. I'm desperate.
God damn, dude.
Hey,
What?
that's just with the mix.
Stick furniture in my ass. Holy shit.
I'm desperate.
What? Why are they all me? Why? You made no.
Bob, you
fucks
you
to
say
we
me.
can
you say
make
the
you a-
craziest shit.
Bob, we can make you a supercut. I have often considered it
I'm
because there's
sure
a lot of
Supercut
material.
is
to work.
largely you saying obscene and ridiculous things. I would say more often than any other element is you saying ridiculous shit.
I'm
Nah.
desperate.
Prepare to laugh your guts out through your asshole.
It's a large
That's a hard.
promise.
It's a hearty laugh, man. That's funny shit.
Um,
There's a small little touch, like at the very beginning of this movie, I thought was neat with the Fox, like, fanfare intro, and it sort of like slows down and sounds like garbled and fucked up towards the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
That's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
I agree.
Um,
Like that seems like I don't know that they did a whole lot of that sort of like customizing of the production house logos back then. I
Yeah.
don't remember a
Mhm.
whole lot before this time.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
The
Hmm.
I said earlier, like, I wish there were guns in this movie, and it's not necessarily like I wish there were guns in this movie. I wish that there were weapons to be found at a maximum security prison. That would make sense, right? It's just weird that
Even if they're
Yes.
locked up, I get
Nothing.
that. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I
and
get
I mean,
that.
we've seen that before.
Unless they
and
threw it in the
that's-
forge, they could have a scene where they describe, like, we threw them in the
Yeah,
forge.
sure.
Just say that, then I'm happy.
Well, and that's why I feel like
Yeah.
we need some kind of conflict amongst the people. We need some kind of character development going on. And we've seen the point, you're in a prison, you get a kind of Con Air situation going where, the prisoners get a hold of the guns and they sacrifice some
Yeah.
of the guards to the alien, or like we need something else
Something.
going on here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
other than we're
um,
fucked up, lady, stay away from us.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
We need more human elements going on here.
Or some
Yes.
like ridiculous shit. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like it's just very at this point, like what we end up getting in that last half, second or third act, whatever it is just like very like rote and repetitive for a long
Mhm.
time. And there's so much space in there, and what's already like not that long of a movie, like at least the theatrical cut, have something in there, man. Just have add one scene where you have like the Mist level, like, like fractioning of the population between zealots and science minded people or whatever, like any of that. And all of a sudden you've got yourself a better story, and then have Dutton or Dylan or whatever, like rescue Ripley or whatever from that, rather than stupidly sacrificing himself instead of killing both aliens at the same time as she suggested and for some
Yeah.
reason
Yeah.
didn't do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Idiots.
I don't know, man. Yeah, it's
It's just a confused little mess,
it
unfortunately.
is. Well, yeah, when you have
It
so
is.
many writers like that, I mean,
It's
that makes
amazing that they
sense.
got this cohesive.
It's
honestly.
true. It's true. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. And luckily, this didn't end Fincher's career, because that man can direct the shit out of a movie, as we've all come to
Dude,
find.
that
he
Randy was going
came
through
back
his
swinging with
filmography.
7.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
still
3 years
so like
later,
I
7.
probably tonight honestly will go watch Mank just because I've never heard of it, and
Yeah, I'm curious
all
too.
of his other films I'm pretty sure I've seen every single one of his films, and they're all like fantastic. So
Yeah.
after this, he did 7. Amazing. Fight Club, Panic Room.
The Game,
Panic
too.
Room is I haven't
Panic
seen
Room's
that in a long
alright.
time.
It's all right.
Zodiac, awesome. Benjamin
Yeah. The
The
Button.
game is
I didn't
incredible.
realize
I
he
want to
did.
make sure that we
The game is
Oh,
great. Yeah.
which
game
one
is
is the
fucking great.
I don't know if I've ever
That's-
seen the game. Maybe I'll watch the game.
Oh,
Dude,
fuck,
watch the
dude.
game.
Okay.
Watch the game. Know nothing going.
Oh,
in,
Michael
please.
Douglas. Okay.
Michael
Yeah, boy.
Douglas and Sean
I've seen
Penn
this
and-
poster. Like I know this poster. Okay. I'll watch the
It's-
game then.
That's a movie that you definitely don't want to know anything about in advance.
Okay, cool. Well, it hasn't been spoiled for me so far. So, but dragon tattoo, honestly, for creature comforts, I've got like 3 of these, like
All
the Fincher
Finchers,
movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To cover. Yeah. Dragon tattoo is definitely one of them. But
it's good. Yeah.
yeah,
Got a
I
new
mean,
one
he's,
coming this year.
it's hard to find a director who's that fucking consistent. Not just consistent, but like really
Good. High
good. Yeah.
quality, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The
Dude,
Killer
he knows what he's
2023.
Ooh.
excited
Yeah.
about November.
Nice.
So,
All right.
what-
Tilda,
have, has
Tilda
it-
Swinton, Michael
have y'all seen
Fassbender.
Mank?
I
Never
haven't,
heard.
No, I just looked up what it's
Me
about.
neither.
It's like a fictionalized story, I guess, a
It's black
biographical
and
drama
white.
film about
okay.
the writer of Citizen Kane, or the,
Ooh,
the screenplay
Ooh.
developer
Huh.
of Citizen Kane is what this says.
that's
So
pretty
I
That
don't know.
sounds
I've
interesting.
heard people praise it, but I like
Hmm.
the only people I've ever heard mention it were praising it. So hopefully that means
Okay.
that it's
Cool.
great and just not well known.
Yeah, Fincher's. Yeah,
He's got a
solid,
good enough
man.
record to convince me to check it out for sure.
Good shit.
I've got some Fincher to watch this week. Good on me.
Anything else you guys want to mention before we rate Alien Cubed?
I don't think so.
I think I'm all set.
All right, let's do it. Out of 5, Juice, why don't you kick us off? What do you think about Alien 3?
Yeah, like kind of like Randy said, I was kind of coming into this not with a whole lot of expectations, but the expectations I had were kind of low. This one is not praised often. I don't hear a lot of good things about it. But I didn't really know anything else. So, going in, I was like low expectations. And then like through that first hour, I was like really pleasantly surprised, honestly. I was like, wow, what are they going to do to kind of fuck this film up? And then they kind of do, not to the degree I think people talk about it, but I definitely was disappointed by the end that they kind of wasted a lot of the potential that they had built up. And so there was a element of disappointment there after the kind of like element of like surprise and intrigue. As I said before, I mean, I think I've kind of laid it out there. There's some positives in this film that could have been good, but they really don't pay off, which is unfortunate. And really the only consistent thing I think that they set up that is well delivered is the fact that Ripley still is badass and goes out in a kind of badass way, and in some ways makes sense for like the end of her character. She's lost everything. She's been battling this alien. It now comes down to the idea of like it's infected you, and she's willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, like killing herself to end this like struggle, to end this battle. And that's great for her character. And that's the only thing that I feel like is paid off that this movie sets up. I feel like the setting was mostly kind of like wasted potential. I feel like a lot of the characters and ideas of like the religion and what's his name, fucking the
Dylan.
doctor,
No,
Dylan
Clemens.
too, Dylan, and then the doctor
Charles
Tywin.
Dance.
Yeah, those were all just kind of like wasted potential. I feel like we didn't ever get anything from those kind of interesting characters. And then bringing the company back just felt like so kind of weak, because it was the same thing we've seen in the past 2 movies. It's just like they're evil, they want the alien, we fucking know they've always wanted that shit. We don't need to do it again. So overall I think a 2.5 is fair for me. There's some decent action. The alien looks like doo-doo, unfortunately, but yeah, just kind of right down the middle. Not terrible, but unfortunately not great either. So yeah, Bob, out of 5, where are you gonna rate Alien Cubed?
Yeah, pretty much right down the middle, same as you, man. 2.5 for me. There's some cool ideas here, just none of them pay off. And I do want to give it like a little bit of slack, knowing the messed up production history and like how cohesive this movie is like shocking and surprising.
Yeah,
Like, damn,
yeah.
okay, well, I mean, David Fincher clearly is the reason any of this makes any sense. So good on him. Ripley is written well and consistent, so thank God for that. The alien looks like straight doo-doo, which is such a bummer because in the first two movies, all of them look so good, which is amazing. Probably the most iconic shot from this movie is where the alien like is face to face with Ripley and then like realizes she's carrying a queen embryo and backs up and doesn't kill her. And like that scene, Fox told Fincher like to fucking cut it, not to shoot it or whatever. He told him to fuck off and did it anyways. And like that's the scene.
It is.
So
Which
good on
scene?
him.
I'm sorry.
This scene where the alien, like it's always shown in like stills too, where it's like right by her face and it's kind of like drooling down, and it does.
It's about the
yeah.
eater.
If there's anything that's
slowly backs
everlasting about this movie, it's that image.
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we covered it all pretty much. There's some cool ideas here, but it just doesn't pan out. 2.5 as well, right down the middle. Randu, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty aligned on this one. I in particular am aligning with the thought that it just kind of does not pay itself off in a way that even if they had paid off Wayland a little bit better, it would have maybe been a better movie. Even if it was like strictly a rehash of the first one and just really hammered home the same stories, it would have been repetitive, but not nearly as confused as it ended up being maybe. Anyway, your critiques all hold true for me, I think, for the most part, and your call outs for positivity I think are well earned too. Like Ripley is still great. She's still like self-sacrificial and all business and cool as a cucumber and all those things you want her to be. I didn't like the way they unceremoniously just wrote out those other characters, really. I don't like that they brought back Lance Henriksen and tried to make some... I don't even know what was the point of that. I don't understand, except to just have him back in the studio. I don't know. And then I don't know, like all the... I just think that it seems like its reputation is well earned as being just a product of development hell, above all. And the fact that it stands up as well as it does is fucking incredible, considering all of the challenges it faced. So for me, that puts it into a very positive territory, if not a glowing territory. So I'll give it a 3 flat.
Okay.
All right. 3 from Randeezy is going to put our aggregate at a 2.6, repeating, of course. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment. Oh, actually, Miles sent in an email.
I got you, Miles.
Come on, Bob.
I got you, Miles.
Your boy
With
Miles.
me in the studio is the Dark Lord Blood.
Tight. Yeah, again, this movie was chosen by Miles. Thank you so much, Miles, for showing us some love, supporting us on Patreon, and picking this week's flick. Miles sent an email with his own thoughts. Juice, you got that?
I do. Here we go. I was going to call last night and leave a voicemail, but much like the great poet Afro Mang said, some things came up. Thanks for reviewing my pick. Not that you had a choice since I paid for it, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Alien is my favorite horror franchise by far, so I was really excited to hear your thoughts on this one since it's a controversial film. I'm not going to make any crazy claims like this is the best movie in the franchise. It's not. I think 1 and 2 are near perfect, and this was never going to be as good as those. And given the production history, it was never going to be anything but a mess. And while I think this movie is extremely flawed, I like to highlight its strengths. I think David Fincher does a great job directing, and the movie looks great visually outside some of the poor creature effects. I also love what they did with Ripley's character. People complain about Newton Hicks being killed off screen, but honestly, I love that choice. This movie is extremely bleak and has a really oppressive, nihilistic tone throughout. Whoa, Fincher knows all about that. Throughout, and I think it's a great contrast to the feel-good romp that is Aliens. Feel good? I don't know about that. It reminds us, my little commentary here, Miles. It reminds us that this is a horror franchise.
Your commentary on your commentary.
Yeah, after the summer blockbuster that James Cameron made. Some people wanted Aliens Part 2s, but that movie was always going to suck. You can't recreate that without being James Cameron, and I'm sure Even another movie by James Cameron wouldn't live up to it without feeling stale. So yeah, not a perfect movie at all, as I'm sure you guys will point out, but I think it makes for a good conversation. It's still way better than 90% of horror sequels. When there's this much talent involved, I can't in good conscience say that this is a bad film, but when certain other franchises have later entries where the main villain fist fights Busta Rhymes. Okay, so until Wayland Yutani gets brought out by what?
Gets bought out by
Gets bought out by Dangertainment in part 9. I say okay. 3 1/5 stars from me. Okay, and 1/5. Damn. Hashtag hard with soju. That is all Miles has to say.
Yeah, we ain't buying that one, buddy. Thanks, Miles. We appreciate it.
Miles.
Yeah,
Hopefully
you're pleased with our take on this, because I think we're largely on the same page. You sound a little more glowing than we were, but
yeah,
I think we see.
However, I will say there's a universe where Aliens 1, 2, and 3 are directed by fucking James Cameron, David Fincher, and Ridley Scott. Fucking, I do that every time. Ridley Scott. And they're all each bangers. Like, they're all live up to those directors. That would be the ultimate horror franchise trilogy.
There's also a universe. There's also a universe where fucking we have basically Red Dawn with xenomorphs in a mall in space, directed by Rennie Harlan.
Yeah.
So your lucky.
There's some variations there. Yeah. But still, the potential of that and like the little bit of missed potential hurts my soul just a little bit, because that would be nuts. That would be nuts to have that trilogy.
Honestly, we came pretty close.
Yeah,
pretty close.
Almost. Almost. Oh well. What could have been.
Yeah.
I'd watch the Dangertainment version of Alien any day. I'd watch the shit out of that. LL Cool J tells the alien, "You killed my bird." Fucks him up. Yeah, I'd watch that.
How about nice day, says the xenomorphs.
The little mouth eats the bird, I'd watch that.
Yeah, I can see that. Like a frog tongue.
Thanks again, Miles, for picking this week's flick. Now let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment. See what the critics and users think about Alien Cubed.
Now do it. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these folks guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is for Alien 3 on RottenTomatoes.com. That's both critics and users. We're going to start, as we usually do, with the critics. And I'm going to start with Bob today. There are 63 reviews on the critics side of things. Bob, what percentage of those 63 reviews do you imagine are positive?
I don't think it's going to be too high. Critics, I'll go with a 50. Give me a 50.
50 flat?
Yeah, flat.
All right. 50 flat for Bob. Juice, how about you? Where are you sitting on this one?
This is going to be tough because I think it is going to be somewhere around that like middling score. I just don't know if I should go positive or negative. So I'm going to be a little pessimistic and go the negative route and say 45.
45. All right. Let's see. Do a little math.
Oh, you're a magic twanger, Froggy.
Bob's going to take this one, and it is a squeaker. 48%.
No,
yeah.
No. No.
That's a hell of
No. Justin's face is melting. I don't know if you guys are on behind the scenes or not, but he's turning into an old candle right now.
Not with a hut tone.
Let's move over to our audience score. There are 250,000 plus ratings on the audience score, so a significantly higher proportion. We're starting with Juice this time. We're going to start with Juice this time. Where do you think that those 250,000 plus audience members fall on this?
This is
aggregate
tough
score?
because that's a lot.
It is a lot.
I'll keep it within the same range, but say that the audience will like it a little bit more and go with a 56.
56. All right. Bob, what about you? You going to defend your championship here or what?
I think that's a pretty good thought. Numbers that high is going to drive it up. I think this movie definitely has its stands for sure. What was Juice?
56.
56. I'm going to go a little
56.
higher, I think.
Okay.
With a 60, please.
A 60. All right. Math. Juice is going to take this one.
No!
It's a 46. We
Oh,
hit
no.
lower.
Oh, damn.
We hit lower on the
All
audience
right,
score.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
So tough break for the audience in this one, I guess. The critics' consensus reads as follows: Alien 3 takes admirable risks with franchise mythology, but far too few pay off, and a thinly scripted sequel whose stylish visuals aren't enough to enliven a lack of genuine thrills. I think that's semi on base, not
Yeah.
entirely.
Yeah.
It's fair.
I don't know if they took admirable risks with the franchise mythology. Like, what risk was taken?
Well,
Killing everybody
mythology.
that survived in the
Oh, okay, yeah,
monks
okay,
and-
yeah. That's a
Yeah.
good point. Well, killing the survivors from the last one, I would say call that a risk. Okay,
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think when
I don't
you
know
I
that-
think when you say like I got a hell yeet, that's pretty fair, you know. So
But nobody
Totally.
says that.
Nay.
Bringing it back.
Finally. A bump that's not me.
Now let's read a negative review and see if it's got any humor to it. God willing. Here's one.
Please God.
Dull and
Please.
depressing. Alien 3 has its moments, but they're few and far between. Not the worst movie ever made by any means, but also not a very exciting one to watch. Too grounded. I hate it.
Hilarious. Hilarious.
God
Be
damn
more
it.
extreme in your
Come on.
opinions.
I want the extreme reviewers. I want the Armand Whites times 10 in my
Rotten Tomatoes
my shit,
X.
Sharknado gave me a boner.
I mean, that one.
Nice. Speaking of G baby,
Mhm.
Yeah,
shouts
true.
out.
All right, folks. Well, I don't think we're gonna get any real winners in the comedy.
Nothing to see here,
comedy?
folks.
Comedy in the comedy section of things. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The meaty
What the
We
comedy.
fuck
all
is happening?
speak
I'm having-
English.
I have mini strokes every episode. I'm pretty sure.
Right. All right.
In this segment and my pain.
I do have some more trivia, so let's get into it.
It's totally time for trivia.
Bob, you got
Oh,
some
the
more
trivia.
trivia, huh?
More. Good Lord.
Give it to
I'm going to give it to you. First time
Yeah.
director David Fincher disowned the film, stating in an interview with The Guardian, I had to work on it for 2 years, got fired off it 3 times, and I had to fight for every single thing. No one hated it more than me. To this day, no one hates it more than me.
Yeah.
He,
Sounds like
decided-
Randy over there.
he does.
Does it?
Yes. No one hates
he
this
said-
podcast more than me.
He said there was constant studio interference during production. He actually walked out when the studio rejected his initial cut and ordered extensive reshoots. He was not involved in the final cut, but his initial rough cut later became the basis for the assembly cut, which is what we can all watch today.
That's even like that. Even calling it the assembly cut is kind of
Yeah.
hilariously shitty.
Yeah. They asked him to comment on the assembly cut, and he said he had nothing to say because to this day he has never seen it. He is done. He is done.
Man, they did our boy dirty. I guess.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Making the convicts bald-headed due to a lice problem was Fincher's idea. When he told Sigourney Weaver during their first meeting, she immediately thought it was a great and bold idea. When Fincher asked how she felt about shaving her head for the role, she jokingly replied, "It's fine with me as long as I get my money." Pay me.
Well, damn.
The original budget was $45 million, with Weaver's fee of $5.5 million. The budget soon spiraled with first Rennie Harlan and then the Vincent Ward, both leaving the project. Before novice filmmaker David Finch came on board, of course, extensive last minute reshoots, yada yada. The budget pushed past 65 million by the end of it, so an extra $20 million.
Damn, that's
No
just
big
poor
deal.
management.
Ugh.
For sure. The little crane that lifts the escape pod out of the water is apparently a miniature built using the cannibalized parts from a Star Wars X-Wing fighter model kit.
Okay.
Wow.
For the nerd eye out there, check that out.
I decided that I'm lonely.
Oh, damn. On the set at Pinewood Studios, a giant lead foundry took 12 weeks to construct and put the production way behind. Even with 6-day weeks and 14-hour days, the crew were unable to keep up with the schedule. 12 fucking weeks to build that set.
Dude, gotta build that lead
Jesus, man.
foundry. Gotta do it.
You gotta do it.
I mean, any set on the level that's going to even remotely match the first two in
Yeah.
scope is going to take that long. It's incredible
Yeah.
that they got it that quick.
After a lengthy and complicated shoot, Fincher spent a year editing the movie while filming additional footage. The studio
God.
rejected everything and wanted a shorter movie. Apparently, to be fair though, like his final cut, the first version of the final cut he submitted was 3 hours long, which is fairly long. But
Yeah.
you know, to reject everything is fucking, you're an asshat. This is the last bit I have here. Fincher was excited to work with director of photography Jordan Cronenworth, who had collaborated with Ridley Scott on Alien and Blade Runner. However, Cronenworth was suffering from Parkinson's disease, which started to affect his work, despite being assisted by his son, Jeff. And then he later passed away in 1996.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I like to end things on a very low note, y'all.
Yeah, no shit.
There you go. That is all the trivia I have for Alien Cubed.
All right.
Let's talk Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
So, Cooter's character type in a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, is there anyone developed enough in this film to be considered a Cooter?
That's a great way of framing that question.
I mean, like all the dudes definitely hit points, but I
yeah,
don't know
if you
we
just
know
wrap
enough
But it's
about
all
it.
like-
the prisoners together,
Yeah.
you could maybe.
I mean, the them trying to rape her is absolutely like undeniable. But everything else that happens, it's like it reminds me of that Simpsons episode where Homer is trying out the chili and he breaks out his special spoon, and they say he carved it himself out of a better spoon. I just don't. It's just, I don't, it's like you're just telling us. It's not showing; it's telling. You're telling us that these are dangerous men. The only instance we get of that is just the one thing, which is admittedly pretty horrific.
Well,
or
I
potentially
would
horrific,
say so. They
but-
tease the other guy about having a low IQ and like just treat him kind of
Yeah.
like shit. So
Yeah.
so I would say between like the rape attempt, the mocking of that one guy, and
I mean, I think
I don't know.
obviously sexual deviance for sure.
Yeah.
I would say patheticness in doing that act, and then also picking on the dude that's real dumb is fucking
Yeah.
pathetic. And then like
Yeah.
arrogance, I think they're all pretty fucking arrogant too, because when she gets there, they're like, fuck you, like we're badass, we murder people, you don't want to fuck around with us, like beating their chest in this way.
yeah.
Like
Maybe,
I don't know.
yeah.
And they look like shit. And they
but
all
they're
need a
also like
shower.
actively trying to distance her from them because
True. Yeah.
They're
because
celibate.
they're committed to their celibacy, I guess, which is admirable if kind of a shitty
No,
thing
it's
done.
not.
Okay, it's not admirable for these rapists to become celibate by choice. Not admirable in
They're
Juice's
not
book.
all just rapists, okay?
Okay, well, just the 5 or 6 of them that we see or
Yeah.
hear talk about their rapist
I
attempts.
mean, I guess we could excuse Dylan from this because he does like jump in and help her out, and he sacrifices himself at the end of the movie too.
Yeah,
and,
but
like,
they
he
all
seems,
sacrifice themselves in the end.
well, some, not all. Some of them just die.
Well,
they
like,
do,
yeah.
knowing that they are going to get killed by Wayland. That's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the
Yeah,
only
there's
Yeah,
reason
that's
no
true.
like
go along with this
coward
shit.
betrayer or anything. Nobody
that's
like
true.
I don't
There's
know.
they have it. They intimate at that, but then they never do it. Really,
No, yeah.
the guy who's most like that is the final survivor of.
Yeah,
everything,
Dylan does
basically.
that speech. You don't want to die standing or on your knees or whatever the fuck he says. And like they're all like, "Fuck yeah, let's fucking do it!" Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
I don't know.
Weird choice.
They're all cooter lights, I guess.
Yeah,
we
I
don't
guess
fucking know
so.
enough.
Yeah.
I think it's the lack of development because I think that any one of these
Yeah.
guys could definitely be your cooter. If any of these guys were played by Richard Brake, it would be over. But
He's
they're not.
mine.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your
Old Richard
your
Brake,
cooter.
man, he holds the record, I think.
Oh,
So
broken
far.
dick.
What?
The man himself.
What?
I don't know.
don't
Richard,
understand.
Dick Break, broken dick. I don't know. Stick with me, guys. Come on.
Bob, you're making some leaps.
I want to throw up.
Yeah. I don't know. Chalk him up to, I don't know. We don't fucking know enough about him because this movie's half baked as fuck, I guess.
Yep.
I think it's a cooter. It's a cooter watch, not a cooter warning in this one. I think we're.
Okay.
I think we're. I don't think we're gonna lock anybody up, but maybe there's some people put on. A
Yeah,
watch
high
list.
alert.
Mhm.
High alert for sure. All right.
The rapist stuff is kind of actually. You know what? Just call anybody in that rape scene. They're
Mhm.
cooters.
Oh,
Fuck 'em.
yeah. I feel comfortable with that for sure. Lock him up.
Okay.
All the
let's do
people
that.
that we can't remember their fucking names. Lock them up.
To lock him up.
Did they have names? Who knows? All right, let's kick our feet up, let our hair down, chill the fuck out, talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randeezy, what you been watching?
Really, not very much. I think that I'm gonna have a couple of repeats and a couple of new things. I've been still watching Poker Face, the Natasha Lyonne, Ryan Johnson, Columbo style murder mystery show. It's very good. Like I'm really digging the wave of murder mystery types, like saucy detective led shows or films and whatever that have been coming back out since Knives Out kind of broke that seal. And especially because it's Ryan Johnson, because I just like that man's work, and I know that's a divisive statement to some, but I like it. What can I say? I finished up Minish Cap. It's a very fun game. I don't know what else to say about that, but it's a very fun game. It's not earth-shattering by any means. It's not groundbreaking, but it's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
The new things that I've watched The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, the original, the 70s edition, which I enjoyed, and I can see why it was a big action thing, like a heavy hitter in the action scene at the time in the 70s. There's a lot of stuff that man hits different in the year 2023. The way they, the interpersonal social stuff going on is not it's not, it wouldn't fly by today's standards, and I'm happy to be rid of it personally. But taking it as the era that it was birthed in, it's a good action movie. I love Robert Shaw is such a good actor, and I didn't think Walter Matthau, I don't think I've ever seen him in anything but Grumpy Old Men and shit like that. So it was interesting to see him take a more lead role. So I enjoyed it overall. Not my favorite thing, not the least favorite thing. And then the other thing I've been watching or just started watching, I've seen episode 1 of 3 of the new Netflix true crime documentary, The Murdaugh Murders, A Southern Scandal, which is an ongoing and like currently developing true crime thing. I don't know that they're going to have more episodes of this. I think this is really just like a background on everything. And I'm assuming that on episode 3 they're gonna be like, we'll see what happens, sort of thing. I don't think they're gonna do anything more with it, but it's pretty fucking, I don't know, man. It's very bias confirming in some ways, where this is, man, these are the people you really are afraid that you kind of know are out there, but you never get to a really close inspection of, because they're rarely ever put under the scrutiny that they deserve. So that's kind of where this movie, or this story is for me right now. I don't know the details beyond one particular incident and the general family dynamic around this Murdaugh family. But they're starting to get into the real grit of it with episode 2, it looks like. So I'm excited to continue with it. And really, that's all I've been watching. Nothing else new.
Okay.
Right on. Juice, what you been watching?
Been watching a few things. So I rewatched The Walking Dead season 1. I finished that, and that was okay. I watched Chernobyl again from 2019. I think that's like my 3rd watch through, and it's good. It's so good. Shit is like
hitting you in the wake of Ohio.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, part of that, like that kind of shit is legit. It made me think about our discussion of Threads and the kind of like, I think the kind of reputation that surrounds Threads is what I feel when I watch Chernobyl. That legit is like some of the like most scariest shit I have ever seen and considered. Like it really scares me. Like I'm like, that's terrible. And then also Ohio right now. So
Palestine,
that's not great.
No.
I watched a new film that came out called Swallowed, and I'm pretty sure Rachel, who we had on recently from the Zombie Girls, did an interview recently with the director of that film, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so you could check that out. That was pretty good. That has some like body horror. That also was another film that kind of just like really bothered me with some of the things that it's like doing, like the concepts that are going on in that. I really have this like the things that make me squirm are like medical things sometimes, like that are going on, like real things that could happen, and I'm like, ooh, this is like freaking me out. Some body horror going on in there, and pretty solid. I'd recommend maybe people check that out if you can stomach it.
We saw that at the Overlook Festival, didn't we, Bob?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
We talked about it on our Overlook wrap-up episode last year. And it's also got the gentleman from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Mark
Patton.
I didn't want to spoil it, but yeah, he is Patton in there, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, it's okay. Well, I didn't want to
He's an actor in this film.
Well, honestly, I didn't want to say even too much about the like what kind of made me squirm is because I felt this movie like was a pretty wild ride. Like each like kind of beat of it as it changes, it kind of like took me by surprise, and I didn't really want to kind of spoil that ride for anybody. So
sure. Yeah, you did a good job at dodging it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has any clue what's coming if they're watching.
I didn't realize that it had I think it's just now getting released or something.
A wide release, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So but cool. So I'm glad you guys got to see it too. Swallowed. I finally got to see The Whale. Hilarious, really fun movie. I like that one a lot.
Real knee slap.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was
so
sad.
plump, so right.
I don't know how I feel like. It's weird because it's weird because it's Aronofsky. So when I'm like considering it, I'm like, he's got darker films, he's got more violent films, he's got like more bleaker films. So like in some ways, it's kind of like one of his more positive.
It is.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
For him, it's not as pitch black as it could be.
That's the thing, considering the director and everything kind of surrounding that, it's weird to consider it because you're like, yeah, this is really sad and depressing. But then you're like, well, I've seen worse.
Yeah.
I really did love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie, and I like Aronofsky a whole lot. But I feel like that movie's a little overhyped.
It might be. It might be. But still good. I would say.
I
still
understand
good, though.
why, though. It's a Brendan Fraser love fest. That
Yeah,
people are, like,
he's
excited to
at
see
the
him in a-
beginning of his
in a
little
big role like
renaissance here. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Right. And so
He
I
does
get
a
it,
great
but at the same
job.
time,
He
he
does.
does. I just don't like the movie as a whole. To me, is like it's good, but it's
Yeah.
not.
it might be a
nearly the
little bit
best
too much
Aronofsky
at this
movie for
point.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally I watched a film that my boy G Baby recommended me. It's called Under the Silver Lake. This was a complete blind spot for me, but this is from the director who did It Follows. And this was a wild movie. Honestly, it kind of in a little bit reminded me of kind of like Mulholland Drive, like an updated
Oh,
modern version Mulholland Drive, because it's wild. It's kind of like this mystery, this kind of suburban LA mystery, but it is, you cannot, I was like watching it the whole time being like, it's very unique. It's very, very unique and hard to predict and impossible to predict. And it's a very unique film. Andrew Garfield is the lead in this. Pretty
see
wild.
Topher's in it.
Topher Grace is in it. Yeah. Topher Grace is another one of those, kind of like my Elijah Wood. I think I liked I dislike Topher Grace even more than Elijah Wood. Something about those skinny little swirly guys. Oh, something's going on.
I like a boy with
Eat
meat on his
more.
bones.
Yeah, some about
Fucking
Topher
skinny
Grace
asshole.
Touch me.
bothers me as well, in the same kind of ways as Elijah Wood. But yeah, but a pretty good movie. Honestly, it's been a couple days since I watched it, and I'm still like pondering on it. I'm like, that was a wild ass movie. But yeah, it gave me like hard Mulholland Drive vibes for sure. So yeah, check that out if that sounds interesting to you. I would recommend people check it out. It's pretty cool. So yeah, that's all I've been watching. Bob, what you been watching, my guy?
I cannot remember if I mentioned the new Ant-Man movie last week or not, but Quantumania.
I don't think so. Not that I remember.
No, actually, I
Well, I
think you
did.
might have. And I think that you kind of began and ended at "It is doo-doo," something along those lines.
Really?
It's a doo-doo caca movie. I didn't like it.
Oh damn.
It's just real long and nothing really seems to matter. It's just real boring to me, anyways.
Yeah, it's getting really bad reviews.
Yeah, I didn't.
The
Didn't
well
care
is
for- I
drying.
could not wait for it to be over. To be honest.
Damn, that sucks.
So that was that for me. I also revisited Slumber Party Massacre Deuce.
Oh,
Yabos die tonight.
Bob.
Heard that. They're shouts outs to our friends over at The Cut Above. They're covering that this week, and we just covered the first movie. I hadn't seen part 2 in a long fucking time, so threw that on. Watched it with Mikey and Alice, and it's like so fucking goofy and like fun. It's definitely one of those movies it's best served to watch like with people.
Isn't
if they're
Mikey
having
on
a
that
couple
episode?
beers. Yeah, I believe he's going to be the guest of
okay.
honor
Okay.
on that review.
They're probably recording right now, actually.
Probably, yeah. The Driller Killer with like the fucking guitar is so iconic. His goofy ass like singing and dancing. It's just like real like lighthearted and fucking goofy. And like it's just a fucking ridiculous sequel. It's if you like the first one at all, I would say check out part 2 if you haven't. It's wild. It's a wild ride. I also revisited Bubba Hotep. Scream Factory just put that out on 4K. Hadn't seen that in a while. Bruce Campbell playing an old ass Elvis impersonator in a retirement home, and there's a mummy that comes to town and like fucks up
Like a
the
cowboy
retirement
mummy.
facility. Yeah, cowboy mummy. Yeah,
As they come.
It's the story itself is fucking wild. Weird fucking story.
Wow.
Bruce Campbell is the horniest old Elvis impersonator you've ever seen in your life.
Makes
which
sense.
just fucking cracks me up. It's a real low budget for sure. But I enjoy the shit out of it. It's just real goofy and light, and it's a weird, just quirky story. I dig it. Good shit. I recommend it. If Bruce Campbell is, if you're down for Bruce Campbell, you'll probably get a kick out of it. And finally, The Last of Us, going strong. I got one episode to catch up on, but the one from last week was definitely like a bit of a cliffhanger, and I think I've been enjoying the ride quite a bit. So
They just got
Go
one more week
HBO.
left, right? Isn't it supposed to just be 8 episodes?
I don't know, honestly.
I
That's
think
a good
so.
question.
I think so.
Yeah, so yeah, almost done, huh?
I think next week is the
then you
last
got-
episode. We'll have to do a mini cast on that one.
We should, yeah, we should do that. We will do that. You know what we should do? Do a mini cast on
You know what we should do? More.
always more. Always more.
Always.
Yeah, that's it for me. That's what I've been watching this week. Let's go and get into the last segment of the show, which is, of course, our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We do have one voicemail this week. We're hearing from our boy Chris. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Hey, Straight Chillin' crew, this is Chris from Louisiana, aka Supreme Leader Vladimir Putin. I had left a voicemail a couple months ago, and then I guess it got all choppy. I switched cell phone providers recently to Optimum, and it's really terrible service, so there's dead zones all over the cesspool of the city. Anyways, I forgot what I was calling about when the audio ended up not being good. I hope this is going through, that it's fine. Anyways, I just got done listening to the Slumber Party Massacre episode, and then I know that at the end of the episode, Alien 3 was discussed, and it will be the subject of next week's episode. I just wanted to talk a little bit about it for the episode when you guys are watching it and reviewing it and stuff. I don't particularly remember it too much. I knew I was excited about it because Alien 2 was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. I didn't know David Fincher at the time. He's become probably one of my favorite film directors of all time. But I read a book maybe almost a decade or 2 decades ago called Rebels of the Backlot. It was about 6 young filmmakers and kind of stories about their start. I know that a big problem with Alien 3 was that studio meddling. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. Fincher couldn't do what he wanted to do. That was detailed in the book pretty good. But one of my favorite stories in that book was after Alien 3 when he made Fight Club for Fox Films. Part of the deal was that he didn't have to show dailies because of the problems that Alien 3 had. And so when he was making Fight Club, Fox was real nervous because it was a really expensive movie. It was over budget pretty quickly after they started shooting it. The president was really nervous because he wasn't getting footage, of the day's shoots. So finally, when it was finished and David let them know that it was done, he scheduled a private screening for the executives and the president of Fox. And in the book, it detailed that when the movie was over, the president of Fox stood up and just started throwing a fit and said, "I can't fucking sell this. You're going to ruin us." And then I don't think, I could be wrong, but I think that he hasn't worked with Fox since then, considering the problems that he had with Alien 3 and then the problems that he had with Fox for the making of Fight Club. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's definitely going to inspire me to give it a rewatch. I haven't watched it since it first came out, so I remember being mildly disappointed, but yeah, who knows? And I think there's a director's cut now also, which I'm sure you guys are going to talk about, so I might have to track that down. All right, well, thanks for putting on an awesome show. Have a good one. Bye.
It's interesting to think about,
bell.
yeah, that kind of stuff because I just covered Fight Club recently with our boy Matt on Creature Comforts on YouTube, and we it's funny to look back now. We're like, yeah, that so perfectly kind of like encapsulated that time period of what like the kind of bubbling of like social things going on at the time, and it's this weird little time capsule now. Like how out of touch some people can be, like I can't sell this, no one's gonna want to watch this is too bleak. Idiot. This is not, it's like Sometimes, man, it's just these old ass farts just don't know what the fuck is going on. It's crazy.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're
a fucking classic film.
Yeah, and he had 7 in the bag, in between
Yeah.
Alien 3 and Fight Club. So
and the game, right?
and the
I'm
game,
pretty sure.
yeah, and the game.
Like those, I don't know, man. Like I think that like, yeah, it is crazy, but it's one of those things where like you put in the time to become that high level person. You've probably been around for long enough to where your tastes don't necessarily hold up to scrutiny, and you have to start like branching out. And if you're not willing to like take that risk, man, I understand though, it's millions and millions of dollars. So I mean,
yeah.
But at the same
like
time,
you're going
man,
to
if you can't sell
ruin
that,
us?
it's an action movie.
Yeah.
It's an action movie from a very by that point a successful director. So
Yeah.
With
like,
Brad
I don't
Pitt.
know. I think if you can't sell that,
if you can't sell
Come on,
Brad
yeah.
Pitt and in the 90s fucking Ed Norton, then you are a dumbass.
Suck.
then you are a dumb ass.
You can eat my shit.
You old piece of shit.
Look at my feet, you piece of shit. But yeah, thanks for calling, Chris. Yeah, I came through very clear this time. Hopefully you dig Alien 3 upon your rewatch. That sounds like a pretty dope book, honestly. Good for you, reading. Look at that.
For reading.
Good for reading. Again, if you guys are listening, want to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Gentlemen, do you have any prompts you want to throw out for next week?
Oh boy.
Wait, what's our movie
guess-
next week? I always try to base around our movie.
Next week, we're talking about the winner of the March poll, which looks to be Scream 4.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Scream franchise. So
Yeah.
I don't know, and we've got a new one coming out in 2 weeks, right?
6
Yeah.
Scream, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, who do you think the killer's gonna be? Why don't you go ahead
No,
and
let's
throw
not do
your-
that because spoilers are out already. So,
Yeah.
Oh
You can-
shit.
you can know
Oh
that
my
for a
god,
fact.
yeah. Okay.
That is, somebody let it out of the bag
Oh,
already, and
God.
I don't want to tempt fate.
Let the
Oh.
shit out of
Um,
the flaming bag,
Oh god.
Yes.
assholes.
Well, fuck.
Just tell us
I don't
about
know.
your like Aliens, like Alien 3. What would you have done to fix this film? Like, what is there a
What
version of the script that
version, yeah.
existed that you prefer, and why? And if not, what would you like? What's your ideal version of how Alien 3 is my question.
Hmm.
Also, what's your favorite Scream sequel? If you want to go the Scream route, tell us your favorite and why. We want
Bob,
to know.
we're doing something already, okay?
What's your
God
favorite
damn.
scary movie?
Ooh,
No.
what an original question. Also, tell us how much money you paid for one of those Scream popcorn buckets secondhand
Oh
off eBay.
my lord.
You
What is
How
with the
much money did
popcorn
you
bucket
burn?
market? The expendable income that people are willing to put down for popcorn buckets is too damn high. In my
Also,
opinion.
too, a couple thing about the popcorn buckets.
okay?
They're not being sold at the theater, so you can't use it at the theater.
No,
Uh,
well, they were. They sold out.
But they
because
weren't
for
gonna
some
be
fucking reason.
But they were not
They-
going to be delivered until August.
No,
6 months
no,
after the
hang on.
movie comes out.
Hang on, they were sold at the theater. They released the popcorn buckets like a month before the movie came out for some reason, so they got bought up. And there is
Okay.
still a demand for them, and now they're letting you order them online, and you're not going to get them till August. But they're not going to sell them in theaters anymore since they've sold their inventory. Apparently, so, like,
But you
that's
can't use
it.
it at the movie theater.
No, apparently, if you bring it, they won't put fucking popcorn in it,
What?
which is dumb. I don't know, man.
What? Watch, this is
I-
gonna be
this
like
is-
the
I blame
worst
Disney
fucking
for this
Scream
shit, dude.
movie. This is gonna be like the worst fucking. Everybody's gonna
I've-
have Scream popcorn buckets, and it's gonna be like the most doo-doo piece of shit film that ever.
we're witnessing the Disney adulting of horror as we sit here. That is
Oh,
literally
my
the
lord.
popcorn bucket is a Disney adult thing.
It is a Disney thing for-
collectors.
Yeah.
So like that's where this is
It-
coming from, and it upsets me that it's infiltrating horror circles.
Well,
so
I mean,
deeply.
theaters used to do shit like not necessarily popcorn buckets, but merch and shit you could buy. They used to do that all
Yeah.
the time in the '90s. I feel like it's been a long time since we've seen anything like it. I think it's interesting they're doing shit like that for Scream 6. I guess
There's
I
a
assume-
secondary market for these fucking tchotchkes
Yeah.
in advance of them
anything,
ever
yeah.
being made. That's pretty repulsive in my opinion.
No, I mean
As
they're
a
made.
minimalist, I'm
People have them.
disgusted.
I
And they're
have
reselling
disgust
them.
in my soul. I know. Well, that's a secondary market. Like the fact that
You
there's
said before
price
they're
gouging
made, I'm
around.
saying they exist. People have them in their hands right now.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Then yeah, sure. But whatever. But like, yeah, they're not. The movie's not out yet. There's a lot of people aren't going to get their popcorn buckets until after the movie. And no matter if you
Yeah,
have it
yeah.
now or later, you're never going to
Can't
get to
use
use it for
it.
its intended purpose.
You can't.
So
yeah, which is
what a
dumb.
circle jerk this all is. Like,
I mean, I guess you could just buy popcorn and then dump it in the bucket yourself. But what are they going to kick you out? Like, no.
Oh, we
fuck
also
outta here.
forgot to plug the new Straight Chillin' popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. It's
Yeah.
just our wide open.
you know what we
mouths,
should do?
And you just
Make
pull
me
popcorn out
design a
of them.
fucking popcorn bucket.
Make
know.
me. We can get
We'll
a
take-
secondary
We'll take
designer,
casts of our
Randy.
assholes and just shove popcorn.
Actually,
into it.
that's a good way for us. We are now hiring a graphic designer to help us work
Dude.
on.
If you just
Put anything in my ass. I'm desperate.
even popcorn, the straight chilling asshole popcorn bucket. You can eat popcorn out of our asses 8 days a week if
We
you want.
we need to churn out like 100 different items of merch this year, so we are now hiring designers. Send in
And
your
then
application.
We'll just
Look,
say
man,
that we sold out. and then
hire a
we'll
designer,
sell them-
please.
We'll sell them
You're
all
acting like you're taking my
secondhand
job.
on eBay.
I am more than happy to delegate.
Randy easy. Get your straight chilling popcorn buckets on eBay right now for $300 a pop. You won't regret it. Eat popcorn out of Randy's asshole
That's
every night.
yeah. Wait till they hit the secondary market. You're getting a steal,
Extra
my friend.
butter.
And that's
Extra butter on that pea corn.
the sloppy secondary market. I don't want anything to do with it.
That pea corn's gonna have some chocolate on it, whether you put M&Ms on top or not. Let me tell you.
Whoa, Bob.
Devil made me do it,
That's,
did he?
Call in 904-638-3231. Let us know how much money you would pay for a cast of our assholes you can eat popcorn out of, please.
Let us know, please.
The butt corn is flowing. That's it for us this week. Like I said, we're talking about the winner of the March poll, which does seem to be Scream 4. So slam your eyeballs into Scream 4. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Instagram and the tweets and everything. If you want to join, if you want to join our
Find it at
Slack
the
channel,
club.
we at the club, taking our shirts off at the club. You find us on Slack if you want to join.
You
the
can
daily.
fight us at Slack.
Join
Rob,
Slack.
Come fight us.
enunciate, please.
If you wanna join us on
fight
Slack,
us.
you can fuck off, assholes. No,
We're big venture fans, and we're going to start a fight club.
hit us up in one of our social media outlets. Say you want to join in Slack, and I'll send you a link so you can do so. It's a really wonderful community of people. We talk about obviously the movie of the week, but also just TV shows, video games, life, our family, our pets. You know what's going on. We trade recipes. It's great. It's a
I
wonderful.
give
group
a lot of
people, and,
advice.
yeah, totally. Yeah,
Life
Justin
coach
is-
Stains. You know.
He tells you how to live your life.
I
Advice
tell you
is
how to
never-
live a better life. 1, sell all your Blu-rays.
Sure. 2, invest in
Not to be construed as a legitimate advice for entertainment purposes only.
Absolutely. That's gonna do it for us this week here at Straight Chilling. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Oh, you're a magic twanger, Froggy.